So today I talked with Stephen Phillips, who is the co-founder of Neighbours Nomads, which is a co-working space and bar and little hub of community on an island in the Philippines. And I've watched him go from it being a building site to opening it as it is now. Really enjoy the story. I always have great conversations with Stephen when we meet up in London or where we talk, because we're both Essex boys that accidentally fell into catering college in the 90s and then fell into co-working in the era you know us as now. So we have, back when we worked in restaurants, it was called catering, and now it's called hospitality. But we both have this like shared experience of what we used to experience in bars and restaurants and kitchens in Essex and London, and how we experienced that, everything from the human interaction right down to the scalability and building the systems and stuff like that. So some of this we get really geeky in, but it's a great conversation. And before we get into it, go to the show notes, look up the Unreasonable Connection Going Live link. We're doing an event in London for 150 co-working community builders, and we're having you co-create the event with us by being part of the email list and being part of our online events. Okay, so it looks like my dinner's here. Let's go. Hello, folks. We are back for another co-working values podcast. We're going to get right into it today, all the way, I can't even say the name of the place, somewhere in the Philippines. Stephen, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Hey, great to be here. So we're in Palawan in the Philippines. I am probably known for being in hospitality, casual dining in London, in and around London for most of my adult life. What do I want to be known for? I guess kind of going forward. Creating local spaces that open doors to locals and remote workers, and create opportunity for sort of growth and community.
That sounds good. So what, at this point, folks, you need to go to the link in the show notes and look up Neighbours and Nomads website. And there's this like delicious aerial shot of Steve's co-working space that he founded with his wife, Kate, is it El Nido?
El Nido. Yeah.
It is an epic photo. So how is it? So we're going to link to your first podcast when you're like, I'm thinking of opening a co-working space. It's a bit more sophisticated than that. But so what? I hate asking this question because it's such a podcast question. So what do you wish you'd known back then that you know now about the whole that local kind of, because you're very well positioned of being part of the local economy, but also, or the local community is a much nicer way of saying it, and getting people and being a destination for people to come to.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that jumps to mind is the age-old one of, I wish I had double the budget and twice the amount of time. Because it, but then that's perpetual. It'll go on forever. But the pressure to get open and get done was definitely was definitely a thing. If we could go back and change anything, if we knew anything, I mean, and you said it quite often in a lot of our conversations and a lot of your calls, but we just didn't have the opportunity. But if we could have done, I think having more time to build the community, and by the way, I also hate that word. I think you've had a few people on here that have said that, because I think it's overused and misconstrued in co-working. But by the word community, I kind of mean a bunch of like-minded people that can benefit from a place like ours. It probably links back to the same thing, but I just think that word is an excuse word sometimes when it relates to co-working spaces. But if we could have got a bunch of people together, started kind of building everything we're doing from a values point of view, that didn't actually involve the physical space, I think we could have catapulted the use of the space faster from sort of get go. Whereas we just found ourselves in a position where we had an opportunity, we signed a lease, and then we started doing all of that whilst building. So we didn't have the time. But yeah, that would probably be it. And then the other stuff, boring. I now know how to um, construct a building in the Philippines, and all the idiosyncrasies that come with that. I now know what permits I have to get and how to get them and how to avoid fines and all of that stuff. So a lot of it was just learning how to do business in a new country.
It's all that permit stuff. Like we just moved from London to Vigo, and the amount of like operating in the language of someone else's bureaucracy is because if you're in your own country, you grow up with that kind of level of understanding of the system, but changing systems is exhausting in itself.
Crazy.
What is so one of the things I want to get to really fast is I saw you posting on LinkedIn how you got all those Google reviews, and everyone like me in the industry says make sure you get Google reviews and make sure they're real and everything like that, because it's like in the there's a coffee shop that I go to nearly every day. It's a tiny little place, and the amount of people that get off a cruise liner and come to that coffee shop. This is exactly what I do. I'd never get on a cruise liner in my life, but if I did happen to get on a cruise liner by mistake and came to Vigo, or anywhere, I would look for where other people like us had gone for coffee, and they find this coffee place called Club de Cafe, based on the reviews. So people who know what they're doing with their coffee will write things in secret languages that are like, this place knows what they're doing and that place doesn't. So that, I think that's a big part of being found as well. Like I feel like I'm telling you something you already know after being in the restaurant business for so long. But how did the review thing go down?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I think when you're in the restaurant business, naturally hospitality is part of what you do and who you are. And I think a co-working space is a perfect place to offer hospitality. So I think the crossover of skills is phenomenal. We were talking obviously a while back about a lot of different industries for different reasons end up setting up co-working spaces, and maybe their core skill is more about offices or design or whatever else. So maybe it doesn't lend itself to the operation of a co-working space. So I think the hospitality mindset is one thing for sure. But the hook for me was confidence. I sort of felt quite early on, especially opening a co-working space in the Philippines, where most people's assumption, certainly digital nomads, remote workers, their assumption is the infrastructure will be terrible, the Wi-Fi will be terrible, power will go out, which is often the case here in the Philippines. So you've got to give them the confidence that you've worked that out, you've sussed that out. And actually, what better way to give someone the confidence than somebody that's actually used it, has ratified the fact that we have solved those problems in our space, and they don't need to worry about it. And that helps. Certainly a digital nomad coming to, and I'm talking about that side of things now, not the locals necessarily, but certainly a digital nomad coming to the Philippines, is going to do a lot of desktop research before they book a plane and come here, especially if they've got somewhere like Bali or Canggu or somewhere like that in Thailand to choose from, where it's well known that infrastructure and ecosystem exists.
What was how do you get people to leave Google reviews?
Well, we found it quite easy. It took a while to get the team to understand. That's a local thing. That's just getting them into our mindset. And that was probably the slowest part. We've only been open just over 6 months, so that was the sort of the slowest part. And sorry, the other thing I'd add is most of that 6 months is in down season here, in rainy season. So we haven't experienced a full proper season yet, which is exponentially busier than down season, times 8, times 9, times 10 busier. So we've got the real world to come. But I guess I think there's a little bit of bribery. I'll come on to that. But there's also there's also the fact that they genuinely want to help you. So we have we have a lot of locals, and the locals obviously do their review in the early days, and that's that. So you can't get volume out of locals when it comes to reviews. But your nomads or your remote workers that are here for 4, 5, 6 weeks, 3 months, they're going to obviously turn over, and that's where the volume can come from. But these guys are here long enough that they invest in your space and your business, and they believe in what you're doing. They love it. They enjoy it. So they genuinely want to help you. So they want to tell their community, and they want to tell the world, and they want to help you. So often just asking is, and I used to say this in my restaurant world, but just asking is half the battle. And we then just said to the team, look, ask the question, and if they're willing to give a review, and they really enjoyed it, and it's a 5-star review, we're happy to give them a coffee. And something as simple as that, which costs us 50 pesos, so 20 pence, less than 20 pence. Then it's not really about the bribe. Then it's just about the thank you. It becomes thanks for doing that for us. They're kind of in the mindset of, well, no, I kind of would have done it anyway. And just like you would in that scenario with a friend or whatever, you say, well, let me do something for you. Have a coffee on us. And that's all we've done. And we on purpose made a big point. We have people literally knocking on the door here. It's very much the Philippines that will say, "Hey, do you want to buy 100 Google reviews?" And we made the call very early doors that was not in line with our values, and we would never do that. So these are genuine people, genuine reviews, and of course you end up with that sense of feeling much more proud about it.
I think there's this kind of transaction versus energy thing there of, I think this is why I'm always more in love with smaller owner run spaces than like big places with 72 sites, because and then even in those bigger companies there'll be people that know how to say, oh, can you, however they say it, they position, can you do a review? And it's like, oh, I'd love to. That, I've had such a great time here. That little extra thing would, because the amount of, as you were talking there, the amount of spaces I've walked out of, and if they said, oh, Bernie, can you leave us a review? Or if they sent me an email afterwards, I would have just done it, Yeah. And it's not that I begrudge them the review or them asking. It's the mental energy of going, so what did I like about the space? And if it's in the moment, like, oh, Steve and Kate did this. I've got the best coffee I'd had in El Nido. El Nido. How do you say it?
Nido. Nido.
El Nido. Yeah. I can't even say my own name right. Sorry. And it's all happening. But then because you must have worked with people that have done this, over the years, of like, if I give you a coffee, will you give me a review? Yeah. And it's just not the same energy, is it?
No, and it comes back down to the fact that, what's the intent? What was the what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to? That's why I was sort of hesitant of using the word bribe when I first described it. But are we literally just trying to bribe somebody, or do we, want a genuine review? And do we want to get to a situation where they feel like they want to give us a genuine review? So it all comes back to the intent in the first place. If they've not just spent 3 or 4 weeks working in the space, really enjoying it, then no coffee is going to make them give you a good review, right? So it's just the trigger. It's just is it at the top of your mind? Towards the end of if you've done 4 or 5 weeks somewhere, you've really enjoyed it, saying goodbye. It would be at the top of a few people's mind, but is it necessarily right there at the top of your mind? To do a review? maybe not. So that last little bit, that last little nudge, yeah, I think it helps. And there's a bit of science there, right? I say to the team, when the great thing about nomads and people that buy our passes and our week pass, month pass, etc. Well, we know when their last day is, right? Or we certainly know when they're on their last day pass, if they've brought a bunch. So on that last day, we try and make a fuss out of them. We ask them, sort of halfway through the day when they're having lunch or whatever, if they don't mind leaving us a review. They're still at their desk. We've caught them before they leave. They're not going to go off and forget about it. So we sort of try and apply a little bit of commercial savvy. Yeah, I think commercial savvy with genuine hospitality, right? I think the two have got to really work hand in hand. If they don't, then yeah, commercial savvy becomes cold and calculating, and if you do it the other way around, you become a sort of fluffy duffy. Oh yeah, I kind of forgot to do that, and and maybe you're doing yourself a disjustice. So yeah, as I said, we're proud of where we got to actually, but I do have to, the hesitance is that we've got an up season to come. So let's see if all of that approach keeps us going when hopefully we're sort of 10 times busier.
So, Stephen, you work loads in restaurants, and I'm overly obsessed with this idea of hospitality and the feeling you get in a co-working space versus the feeling you get in, both of us have done our graft in the casual dining industry in London. Like, how does it feel hosting people in a co-working space versus running their food to their table in a restaurant?
Yeah, it's like more of the upside and far less of the downside. I think is um, the best way of describing it. You just have the time. You have the time to build rapport and relationships. Obviously you have locals in restaurants, and actually they're in restaurants they're the best people to serve, right? For the same reasons. You know what they want. They know you. You get to know a little bit about them, and 9 times out of 10 you really enjoy those regular returning guests. But the nature of a restaurant is that's always going to be the smallest percentage, or very often, right? So in a co-working space, okay, you get that. And I suppose our space, with a mixture of literally neighbours and nomads. The nomads are maybe, here for a week, maybe here. I think the longest we've had now is 2 months. And you build a relationship. So uh, you've got you get all the upside of just looking after them and getting to know them and whatnot. But if something does go wrong, and I do think a big part of what we do is an F&B operation as well. So with full bar and coffee and cafe, etc. So when something does go wrong, and invariably it is around F&B, you just have the time. You've either built up so much, you know, kind of relationship points with them, that it's just not the end of the world, or you've got time to put it right afterwards. So I mean, a great example is we had a group and they waited way too long for lunch. A ticket had got spiked. The classic old thing is, one chef thought it was already gone, and the other chef didn't realise it was there, and blah blah blah. It was 25 minutes before anyone even realised. In a restaurant, you might recover that. You might have to give them a little bit for free to recover it. In this scenario last week, the customer, one, really didn't care. Two, wanted to, would not even accept a round of coffees as a apology. They'd met the chef, they'd met a bunch of the staff, they'd built some kind of rapport with the team. They'd eaten 3 or 4 times already, so they knew the standard and whatever else. So it's seen as a human mistake rather than like the end of the world because that one experience has gone wrong. And then we hung on. Despite them not giving us anything, we hung on to it. And the next day, or one of the next days, we saw they'd only booked a half day. And the way our system works is, when you say you're going to be here for 3 weeks, whatever it is, we give you the right amount of passes to use for 3 weeks, so it sits in your account. We see that they'd used a half day pass, and we just recredited it, and then sent them a note before they'd even arrived, just saying, look, your half day pass we've just credited it back to you. Just thanks again for yesterday, and then they're overwhelmed about it. So it's easy to look for those opportunities to wow people, and it's easy to fix it just because of the time you've got. So for a genuine hospitality person that just loves that, you get all the upside and none of that pressure of like an hour and a half to make this impact on people.
There's that was very Will Guidera of you. Did you when you set up the space, like you knew that there would be nomadic customers and stuff like that, but like, did you expect to have that experience with the long-term connection with people?
Um, I'd say it sounds a bit. I don't know. I don't know if I sound up myself, but I would say yeah, because that was part of the vision. The vision was that we can build a space that we can that people coming in, unlike tourists, can really enjoy the space, and spend some time here and get to know locals, right? And then the whole point was, trying to connect locals and nomads.
So I was going back to that regular person when I worked in the Broadgate Circle in this restaurant called the Brasserie Rock for a very long time. At least I'd say like 50% of the people that came in every week were regulars, and it was such an amazing feeling. You put people's drinks on their table before they even sat down and all that kind of stuff, and like everything moved really fast. But knowing what people were going to order and what they liked, and when they were with clients or when they were with team members, that the whole energy of the place was epic. And then I worked in places in the West End where there's still a few regulars, but mostly it was people that had come into town for the night or they were tourists. And I always preferred that regular kind of familiar cheers feeling of anything. And that is like you talked about there, that feeling of having a long-term relationship with people in a co-working space where effectively they're sitting in a chair at a table in your establishment is a really good feeling.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is often with hospitality, right? It's two ways. So even those West End customers, yes, they're transient, but there'll be a bunch of them that wanted to engage with the restaurant or the staff or whatever as part of their experience, and there'll be a bunch that didn't. And obviously, the ones that want to engage, they have a lovely evening, and you can build that rapport. But ones that don't, you don't. You effectively, they choose service, I guess, over hospitality, right? Whereas people in co-working spaces, certainly if they're here for a while, they're naturally they want their very nature of why they work in the way they work is that they want to engage with locals, and they want to feel a bit of they want to feel like a local for a few weeks or a few months. I think it's just the natural state of a we call them remote workers because in the Philippines, nomads have still probably got that slightly 19th century connotation to it. It's not a modern word like it is in the West. So these remote workers, just want to connect, right? They want something a bit more than a tourist does, or a bit more than someone spending an hour and a half in a restaurant. And it's a pleasure to give that back the other way.
My friend Lisa used to describe that as going native, and she in terms of a co-working space, and her wife would travel around a lot, and they'd always look for, like, they would never go to a branded hotel or a branded co-working space. They'd always find the one they were like highly effective at looking up these places, and they wanted that experience. They wanted to like meet people and find out what it is to live there. Even if they were only there for 3 weeks, it's like, how can we find out? Because they'd never go to a Burger King, but they can get Burger King and Taco Bell and TGI Fridays and Starbucks anywhere. And you want to get that. There's a difference between, this is a whole new thing for us to go on to, but like, there's a difference between a tourist and a traveler. That's the nuance for me. Yeah. When you said nomad earlier, you said it's got a different connotation. Is that like in the Iberian Peninsula here, where there's a both Spain and Portugal even more so have like really gone for the the work visas and everything like that, the temporary work visas and stuff like that to appeal to that digital nomad customer. And there's a lot of people doing very well from that, particularly in Portugal, but there's also pushback from people where it's a kind of selling the soul of the city to, like once all these brands start moving in, the essence of what made that place attractive to travelers disappears. So then it becomes like another Disneyland or something. So there's always this tension. And I thought that's what you were going to say about the use of the word nomad.
No, it's much more basic than that in the Philippines. It is the fact that I mean, there's no sort of issue with art. Like, we haven't gone and accidentally chosen the worst name that has a different meaning. That can happen sometimes. It's more that a nomad has got that connotation of I don't know, a hobo that doesn't have a house, the sort of drifter, that sort of thing. Maybe slightly spiritual. Those older sort of, like, say, maybe 18th, 19th century type sort of connotations. It's just not, the word has just not been modernized like it has in the West. It's probably a Philippines thing, not a West East. It's probably more a Philippines thing. They love language here, and old. They'll hold on to very formal and old language.
So before we go, what are you looking forward to for this season that's coming ahead? How long have you got to prepare for it?
We're kind of in it. We're kind of just starting. We're in what we call shoulder season. So November is, can kind of go one way or the other depending on the weather. Weather can be a bit up and down, but you should be out of the woods come December. In terms of it's December all the way through to May, then you can sometimes not see any rain at all, but that's considered high season. So I would say almost actually getting going, because we've got all these ideas and you need a bit more critical mass to put these into place. A lot of the stuff we want to do with our customers around group tours and talks and workshops and upskilling and fun things, educational things, all the stuff we kind of want to do and bring in the community to the local community into that. So bring in, at the moment we can't mix have a critical mass of nomadic customers or remote workers to mix with enough locals to start watching some magic happen. So pure volume is going to bring our ideas to life, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to being busier. So maybe the tills ring a little bit louder. That's definitely looking forward to that. But and no doubt, we're kind of put all the infrastructure in and all the training in and whatnot, and now it's got to be stress tested. So I'm sure we're going to spend the season adapting and fixing systems. So it's going to be fun, hard, hopefully rewarding.
It's looking. I've loved following the development journey. We'll link to the Instagram and the website, and I particularly love that, as I tell you all the time, particularly love that aqua colour that you've chosen there. Can you shout out where the best place to follow you as Stephen online, and where the best place to follow the whole Neighbours and Nomads evolution is?
Yeah, I've probably gone a little bit underground in this world that I'm now in. But professionally, I'm on LinkedIn, Stephen Phillips, STEPHEN and double L in Phillips. And I talk a little bit about what we're doing here in El Nido, but I'm still sort of semi-attached to my restaurant life, so I still do a little bit of consulting and I actually work, I guess, as a remote worker myself still. And for Neighbours and Nomads, neighboursandnomads.com, or on the socials, neighboursandnomads.elnido. You'll generally find us.
Thank you very much for your time and attention today, folks. If you go to the show notes, there's a link to the LinkedIn co-working group where we're always chatting about stuff. We would love more of you to get in there. There's around 500 or 600 people that visit that group every week, and about 5 that say something. So if you're running an event, you're posting a podcast, you want to ask a question about software, what kind of IKEA furniture to buy for your hallway, whatever it is about your co-working space, get in there and ask. Also, there is the Unreasonable Connection going live event at the end of February. We have a co-creation list. We'd love you to join it. There's a link in the show notes to this, or if you go to the London Co-working Assembly website, join the email list there, and we're always emailing. And also, I forgot to say, when you get the email from Substack to tell you there's a new Co-working Values podcast, the link is in there to get the sign up for the event in London. Completely forgot what I was going to say there. Also, lots of you are doing the Actionism screening, which is a 25-minute documentary with Ellie and John Alexander and other people about how to take collective action. Notice it's called Actionism, not activist. So it's about connecting with like-minded people in your neighborhood, and even people that aren't necessarily like-minded, and bringing the community together. There's loads and loads of ways to do that, and what lots of people are doing, not just in co-working spaces, but they are gathering together a group of people, watching the film together, having some food and chatting about what they'd like to see in the neighborhood. This is the perfect thing for a co-working space that is intent on being a pillar of the local community to take part in. That is enough for me. Wherever you are in the world, be careful out there. It is a jungle.